Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Tyler, and today we're going to be rebooting an old what if of mine that I'm going to finish this time. This series is What If Bardock Fled to NAMEK, and this will be the first part to our multi-part series. So if you guys would like to see more of these come out and in general, or just a Dragon Ball fan and just discovered the channel, be sure to suggest what videos you want to see in the future, and even considering liking and subscribing, as that helps me out since the majority of my viewers aren't even subscribed. Also, hitting the bell icon helps you get notified and updated when I upload. The like goal for this video finna be 100 likes, since you know it is part 1, and with all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys do enjoy the video.
Hey, collecting rings like I'm Sonic. Bitches wanna party. My wrist getting heavy, so I got 'em on a diet, yeah. Flex like I'm Hogan. Yo, he's coming over, yeah. We respect.
So in this timeline, we're going to be having Bardock having an extra ship, meaning only one of them out of Bardock and Guinea weren't allowed to escape, and one of them were. Bardock would say how Guinea should get in, but Guinea knows Bardock is the better option overall, as he's the fighter of the family and can one day reach out to Kakarot, and maybe they could have a chance to fight Frieza. Bardock insists that he can maybe try and stop him right now and Guinea can try and escape, but Guinea and he both know that it will only lead into Bardock's inevitable death. Bardock tries to talk to Guinea out of this, but she's already made up her mind, and she says that one day her and Bardock will meet again. But for the time being, they gotta go, and Bardock's gotta find their son and defeat the tyrant. Bardock, holding back tears in his eyes, would say goodbye to his wife as he watches the man who's tortured them for ages wipe out the last of the Saiyan race, and his wife included. Bardock had no idea where he was headed to, but that is when eventually he crash lands onto a green planet months after leaving planet Vegeta. Bardock has no idea where he's at, but all he knows is he just landed on a planet and there's water. And so as Bardock salvages off of that, a couple of local Namekians try to stop by and try to talk to Bardock as to why he's here, since, you know, he is just a random guy, not a Namekian, a foreigner who just landed on their planet. As the Namekians try to get Bardock's attention, who's trying to drink water, one of the Namekians tries grabbing Bardock's shoulder, which instinctively Bardock grabs the Namekian and throws him away, not killing him, but breaking his arm and critically injuring the Namekian. It is at that point Nail arrives to the scene and approaches Bardock a lot more aggressively. For the sake of the video, I'll just go with Bardock's power level in the special, which was 10,000. This is in comparison to Nail's 42,000. Yeah, Nail is going to be trying to get Bardock to cooperate, and if Bardock tries to resist, Nail's just going to body slam him, and Bardock will have no other choice but to cooperate. And so whenever he wakes up, he would be taken to Guru's, or he would wake up at Guru's, doesn't really matter which, where he would then begin to inform the Namekians about Frieza and what had happened. He would be honest because, you know, he knows not to lie in this situation and not to really be stupid. And regardless, Guru would read Bardock's true intention via his ability. He'll just, you know, put his hand over his head and be aware that Bardock is telling the truth. Bardock says how he only has two goals, and that's to avenge the Saiyans and afterwards try and go and find his son Kakarot. Guru, hearing this, would tell Bardock of the Dragon Balls and how Bardock can get his son whenever he's done fighting the Mad Tyrant. Bardock likes this plan as he doesn't want to risk his own son's life along with his own life trying to meet up and, you know, Frieza getting in the way of that, or maybe Frieza using Kakarot to get the jump on Bardock. You know, he doesn't want any distractions right now. And so this is where Bardock adjusts to the ways of Namekian life and even becomes Guru's top guard other than Nail. Speaking of, those two, although getting off on the wrong foot, would have gained respect for each other as they both were two simple warriors with a mission. Nail's is to protect Guru while Bardock wants to avenge the Saiyans. Two goals that are very opposite from each other, but both of them are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve said goal, and so that's where the respect comes from. Over the years, Bardock would have been getting Zenkais from his training with Nail, and eventually rises above him in power. I'd say the first 5 years of his training is him adjusting to the Namekian life and getting bodied by Nail up until he gets enough Zenkais to then defeat Nail, which would mean his power level would be over 42,000. I'll say his power level is like 45,000, 50, you know, doesn't really matter. And after this point, Guru would see it fitting for Bardock to then tap into his hidden potential, rising Bardock's power even more. You see, Bardock here would have not only been getting Zenkais, but would have constantly been getting stronger thanks to Guru's boost, and even doing more training on top of that. Bardock really isn't going to do too much until the Saiyan arc happens, so the NAMEK arc is set up, meaning Bardock has over 2 decades to get gains. Bardock probably wouldn't obtain Super Saiyan, but would be ridiculously powerful, even for the NAMEK arc. I'll say for his power level by the time the, you know, heroes come into NAMEK and the NAMEK arc is starting, etc., he would be over 1 million, or basically on par with second form Frieza, which is really fair since this isn't even fully considering the Zenkais and how exponential the unlocked potential boost would be for Bardock. And this is happening in the early days of training, by the way. Nail would obviously get a power boost due to training with someone so much stronger than him for a lot of the years, and I'll say Nail is around 650,000. So not as powerful as Bardock, but definitely built different in comparison to the rest of Planet Namek and his old Namekian self. Now this is where we can skip to around when the NAMEK arc happens in canon, which means the Frieza Force would land along with Krillin and Gohan following afterwards. Bardock, recognizing Frieza's ki, knows what he must do, and so he would then go down to try and, see what Frieza's up to, and he would see him and Dodoria and Zarbon invading a local Namekian village. He would initially just watch from afar and would get ready to try and take on Frieza, but that is when he notices two other people watching, and him being distracted wouldn't notice Dodoria killing the Elder, leading into Gohan acting and kicking Dodoria, and Krillin taking Dende. Dodoria would try and chase these two, but that is when Bardock reveals himself, blasting a riot javelin at the Frieza soldier, completely atomizing him on the spot. Frieza and Zarbon's jaw drops as they see a familiar face, who is capable of taking on one of Frieza's top soldiers. That's pretty insane to Frieza's perspective, and he would try and order Zarbon to try and take on Bardock, leading into Zarbon transforming on the spot and trying to fire a full-powered blast at Bardock. Bardock takes literally 0 damage from this blast and punches Zarbon through the chest and fires a blast through him, similar to how Vegeta did, and kills him. Frieza, enraged at his men dying, would then show off his initial 50% in his first form, but Bardock shows off power that completely outclasses the Tyrant, and even when Frieza tries to go 100% in his first form, which is over 530,000, Bardock is easily able to dismantle the Tyrant and just overall bullies him in the fight, telling him how he'll avenge the Saiyans, Gine, and everyone else. At that point, Bardock would then prepare a blast, as Frieza would then question who's Gine. Bardock fires the blast, but Frieza knows he's about to die, and so, as a last attempt to try and survive, he would transform into his second state. When the smoke clears, it would actually be revealed that Frieza managed to get this transformation off, and he has emerged into his second form. And now he and Bardock are on a completely even playing field, as his power level is over 1 million, and so is Bardock. Now the reason why I said Bardock was just vaguely over 1 million is because this is the same description that was given to us for second form Frieza, and so this means, since they both have the same context, they would just be relative with each other. And so these titans would be going at it evenly, just clashing and making a bunch of shockwaves, destroying the surrounding area, and it would be a very, very close fight, with neither of them having the upper hand. And Frieza can't even attempt to transform into his third form state due to Bardock just being on his head, and the same thing happens to Bardock whenever he tries to recuperate for energy and tries to get, a charged up blast to get the edge on Frieza. As these two are going at it, Gohan and Krillin would be successful in collecting a lot of the Dragon Balls, with no Vegeta finding them due to no Zarbon being detected because he's dead. Instead, he probably detects Frieza and Bardock going at it and would begin to watch from afar, and Vegeta, seeing these powers on a whole other level than himself, would just stand in frustration, not knowing what to do, especially given the fact that when he recognizes who's fighting Frieza, it's a low-class Saiyan. Nail would also be sensing this fight too, and would be mad that he can't help, but he knows where he needs to stand right now. However, Guru himself even insists on helping because he can sense that Nail definitely wants to go and help Bardock, who is his homie. And Nail is Namek's main defender, and although Guru is the elder, Nail might as well just be the other leader. Nail promised to Guru that he would be back and he would charge headfirst to where Bardock is, and he would see Vegeta watching from afar. This leads into Nail approaching Vegeta, recognizing the armor he's wearing, which is very similar to that of the Frieza forces. Vegeta, being a Spurg, would tell the Namekian to get away, and not really noticing the power that Nail possesses, Nail would reveal the difference between the two of them, forcing Vegeta to barely escape with his life, and the only reason he even escaped in the first place was because Nail let him, because he wants to go and help Bardock. The last thing Vegeta would do before collapsing is arrive at a Frieza ship, which in a pool guard would be like, "Oh, Vegeta, are you okay?" And Vegeta would just collapse, forcing a pool and the other Frieza guards to put Vegeta in a healing pod. Nail, after this fight, would then go in to help Bardock, allowing the now weakened Frieza to get overwhelmed. Remember, while these events were going down, Bardock and Frieza were just throwing hands, and so these two would be at least significantly drained now, and Frieza, going into his third form, would then proceed to outclass the two of them, and just forcing them to just try and stall, and hopefully Frieza's stamina decreases. However, while they hope for that, their own stamina, and not to mention their ki and power level overall, is decreasing due to them just getting bullied by Frieza. Now, while this is going on, Gohan and Krillin would gather the balls and revive Piccolo and bring him to Namek. Now, due to having no Guru death as well, and Frieza and Vegeta distracted, they are able to get all 3 wishes off, and their third wish is to just teleport Goku to them. which the wish is granted, and Goku would then teleport right next to Krillin and Gohan, probably not being at his full 90,000, maybe just like 85,000, because he did train for the straight, week he was flying to Namek, so maybe he might be a little weaker, but that doesn't really matter, as Gohan and Krillin, before even attempting to fight Frieza, would then take Goku to Guru, where he would then get his potential unleashed. As they go on to help Frieza, Piccolo would have probably made it by that point and try to help, but in the end up being useless in the long run, so he stays back as Nail and Bardock are slowly beaten up to a pulp. Nail falls but gets back up as Bardock gets a little rage boost to stay in the fight for a bit longer, and like in canon, the Namekians would fuse. However, this time, Nail is going to be the dominant host due to even being stronger while weakened. And it's more fitting considering that we have this little arc building up for Nail that, he's built for greater things, and rather than just being a side character who gets shafted, we actually can, explore this. And it's different from in canon, so that's also a benefit. And so Nail would take up a bigger role to protect the planet he holds very dearly, and would power up against Frieza, actually being a lot more powerful than the normal Piccolo that would have fused with Nail in canon, because Nail was so much weaker. Not only is Nail a lot more powerful, but also Piccolo is a fully healed Namekian that's being fused, and Nail being a dominant host, rather than the dominant host fusing with a fatigued Namekian. Meaning this fusion is just naturally a lot more powerful, and I'm going to say, now at this point, the nameless Namekian is above third form Frieza, and he would save Bardock from a severe wound that he would have suffered had the attack landed. And Nail promises, as the strongest living Namekian alive, he will defeat the tyrant. Bardock would fly down and watch Nail fearlessly take on the Emperor, and would sense a couple of powers very close by. Goku and the Z Fighters arrive when Nail is just starting to actually overpower third form Frieza, and that's when Bardock and Kakarot also meet for the very first time. Being speechless, the father would slowly walk up to his son and hug him, saying it's been too long. Goku being really confused by this statement probably gets explained to by Bardock, or Goku reads his mind, or even both, just to get the rundown of what's going on. Goku is glad to see something of his past actually standing before him, as Goku's last encounter with his past, he literally died. Anyways, they can talk about stuff and bond later, as, they have a problem to deal with right now. This would lead into Dende then firstly healing Bardock's wounds, giving him a massive Zenkai boost, and Goku seeing this and knowing that he is no match for Frieza or even in the same league as Nail or Bardock, he would then say for Bardock to blast him as hard as he can. Bardock would question as to what Kakarot is trying to do, but realizing what he's trying to do, he would then do it with no hesitation, with Goku almost dying, but luckily Dende healing him in time, giving him a Zenkai boost as well. And Goku would also get another boost thanks to Guru's potential unlock. Now, after this, and Frieza seeing the Saiyans exploiting their strength and realizing that, they might actually beat him this time, Frieza, no hesitation, just goes into his final form. And then he would proceed to blast Nail down and damn near killing him in the process. However, that is when Vegeta reveals himself, as he's fully healed now, and even got a Zenkai boost, being similar to his canon self in terms of power. And the reason for that is because Nail's a lot more powerful than someone like Nail, so naturally his Zenkai would just be a lot more exponential from Nail than it would be from Zarbon, and I think it would just make sense for the plot. And it doesn't really matter in the long run because Vegeta still gets pooped on, however he doesn't die because Goku and Bardock are here to try and avoid that. And so Vegeta isn't, beaten up to a pulp and, is about to get death beamed or whatever because Goku and Bardock are already on the scene and they'll just immediately 2v1 Frieza before he can get the chance. And speaking of, let's get into power levels. Frieza's power level is still probably the same, however he's obviously suppressing himself massively, so he's showing lower levels, so around this point he's like at the 2 to 4 million range, like at his 1 to 2%. And as for Bardock and Goku's power level, I'm going to say Bardock is at a solid 3.5 million due to the Zenkai that he got after beating up Frieza and then getting beaten up in the process. And thanks to the Guru boost, along with the fact that he also got a Zenkai, Goku's going to be exceeding his canonical power level and being around 5 million. Which sadly means even with the Kaioken times 20 and Bardock backing him up, it is still not enough to even satisfy Frieza. However, Frieza does have to show like a lot higher levels of power due to Goku being a lot more powerful, and if he does use 50% on Kaioken times 20 Goku, he will die because that Goku at that point is over 100 million. However, this leads into Frieza using more power and Goku relying on the Spirit Bomb like in canon, and Bardock and Piccolo backing Goku up to stall against Frieza. Frieza still survives the Spirit Bomb even when Goku connects it, although he is stronger. I'll say for the sake of simplicity, Frieza just has a harder time getting through the Spirit Bomb, maybe he loses a limb or something. But regardless, Frieza is going to survive this attack and is going to be shooting a death beam through Nail, seemingly killing him, but he would just end up being critically injured, while Krillin would just die like in canon, and Goku would then transform into the legendary Super Saiyan. No, not that one, this one. Now, Bardock won't be going into the full Super Saiyan state himself, however, Bardock seeing Nail fall in battle would be enraged himself, not unlocking the Super Saiyan form like how I said, but probably in some, like, false Super Saiyan state, I guess you could say. The two raging Saiyans attack together and use the remains of their ki to do a combined energy wave that atomizes the Tyrant. Goku holds back, but Bardock doesn't, and so, due to these two energies colliding and combining in power, Frieza just dies, and no Mecha Frieza happens. This is worse since Frieza would actually be even weakened, and wouldn't even be able to access his full 120 million. Goku and Bardock this time escape Namek together and would train on Yardrat. Though Bardock and Goku probably encountered the Ginyu Force since they were going to attack Yardrat before being interrupted by Frieza. And this is cool considering this is all that remains of Bardock's past. That's, you know, negative and about Frieza. Like how Goku fought them in Hell, he would one-shot all of them, Ginyu included in this timeline, and now the two Saiyans would go on to learn instant transmission, and by the time they go to Earth, Goku is able to turn Super Saiyan on and off, with Bardock being able to finally tap into the complete form, but he just can't use it as properly as Goku can. He's probably on the same tier as Future Trunks in terms of being able to wield Super Saiyan, however Bardock physically is stronger than Trunks and is rivaling Goku at this point, who by the way would be even stronger than the one that negged Future Trunks in the canonical timeline. As for the heroes on Earth, the Namekians are still taken to New Namek, but I think here Guru would be inclined to let Nail absorb him due to Guru always seeing greatness in Nail, and now it's time for him to take things to the next level. Nail would be more than just Guru's bodyguard, and Guru's life is fading away anyway. This is the last possible good thing he can do for the Namekians, and so Nail absorbs Guru, gaining higher power. Dende and the others would want him to lead the new Namekians. However, Nail wants to try new and better things. Since, you know, his old Namek was destroyed and he knows new Namek will never be the same, he's decided to try new things on Earth. And so he would unlock the Canon Elder's potential. I don't remember his name, so I'm just going to say the Elder, leading into them being led by the canonical Elder and not Nail. And so everyone is doing their own thing like in canon, except for Nail, who would just be training to become a main defender on Earth, and just in case Vegeta tries to act up on anything. Also, he would kind of have a home, or not really a home, but a good place to hang out and train, which is the Lookout. Now, in the original timeline, King Cold and Mecha Frieza would arrive. However, in this timeline, there is no Mecha Frieza, and King Cold would have no idea where to look, so no King Cold in this timeline. Rather, Future Trunks would arrive, and Bardock and Goku would just teleport to Earth, revealing themselves to the Z-Fighters, and then also being warned by Future Trunks about the androids. We start our story off with Trunks heading back into the future timeline, and then now waiting 3 years until he can return to the past. Trunks would then look up to the sky as the screen fades into a flashback. And this is basically my way of saying, oh, this is what happened in the future Trunks timeline, by the way. We see everyone mourning the death of future Goku, which in this timeline pushes Bardock to become the main defender of Earth after just adjusting to his new condition. Soon after this, the androids attack, leading into everyone falling except for Bardock, Nail, and Gohan. Nail and Bardock are actually able to hold their own against the androids, and Vegeta was too. However, Vegeta just succumbed to the android stamina. And this would then lead into Bardock and Nail trying to work together to defeat these androids. However, 18 would manage to catch Nail off guard, which distracts Bardock, allowing 17 to get the upper hand. We can say maybe Gohan tries to help fighting, leading into 18 hurting Gohan, and Nail, obviously having Piccolo inside of him, is going to be very protective, leading into him dropping his guard. And by this point, Bardock is beaten into a pulp along with Gohan and Nail. However, Nail has the most energy out of everyone here, and as 17 is about to kill Bardock, Nail would rush at 17 with a punch, sending him flying into a building, and at that point he would then blast 18, who is trying to finish off Gohan. Nail tells Bardock and Gohan to go, and reluctantly doing so, Bardock runs away, witnessing his friend sacrifice himself in the 2v1 match against himself versus Android 17 and 18. He would manage to do really well against these two though, however they just simply outlast him, and Nail, while weakened, dies. Similar to what I did in my future Vegeta What If, Gohan and Bardock would both decide to train hard until Gohan manages to tap into Super Saiyan, which makes Bardock think they are ready. They would head first into a battle with the androids, and they would both get completely dropped on their skull. 17 even tries to blast Gohan away, but Bardock at the last second would then save Gohan, but in sacrifice, losing his arm. At that point, Bardock then tells Gohan to run away and that he's the only one left to save the future. Bardock, enraged, would then try and fight the androids like future Gohan did with one arm and would fall in the process. However, he isn't going to drown in a puddle like a bozo. And after this, really, the only difference is that future Gohan is stronger due to him training with Bardock. However, he still loses via the two androids just jumping him. And especially if future Gohan gets one arm again, yeah, it's going to be game over for him, just like in canon, and he's going to drown in a puddle like a bozo. The future timeline begins to align with its canon self after Bardock's death, and this would then lead into Trunks waiting for the 3 years. Speaking of, let's get into the 3-year time skip for our present Z Fighters. Currently, Bardock has moved to Goku's house and has a nice little crib right next to the Sun family, allowing him and Goku to bond and work for Chi-Chi, and Bardock is quickly welcomed into the Sun family. Bardock, Goku, and Nail would train hard with each other, and Gohan's obviously in the training, and speaking of, I think Bardock would even help Gohan attain Super Saiyan. This is because Bardock did see a glimpse of Gohan's rage and knows how useful it could be in a fight like this. And we know that Super Saiyan obviously is a transformation of rage, and Bardock can easily just put 2 and 2 together, and not to mention there is a possibility that all the Z Fighters just die to these two opponents, so they're going to need all the assistance they can get in this timeline, and Gohan being a Super Saiyan would be very useful. And I believe by the end of the 3-year time skip, with a stronger Bardock, a way stronger Namekian than what Gohan was training with, and a stronger Goku, Gohan would have achieved Super Saiyan. Vegeta, unlike Goku, Gohan, Bardock, and Nail, isn't going to be getting stronger than his canonical self and is rather just going to be relative with him, meaning Nail, Goku, and Bardock surpass him in power, and Gohan is pretty close into surpassing him as well. Also, Nail in this timeline might unironically just be relative with Kamikolo or Kami fused Piccolo because of the fact that he not only fused with Elder Guru, but he would just be stronger than the Piccolo that fused with Nail already to begin with. Okay, let's get into the Android arc. Now, we would have Android 19 and 20 still attack the city, leading into Goku facing off against 19, getting sick. However, this time, Gohan would step in and would be enraged seeing his father fall, allowing him actually getting the strength that is needed to defeat 19. Jiro attempts to escape, but Bardock and Nail aren't having this, and Bardock would go Super Saiyan and immediately rip off his hand, similar to what Piccolo did. Vegeta then arrives at this point, distracting Bardock and the Z Fighters, allowing Jiro to escape. And now Jiro isn't going to try and steal any extra energy due to already missing an arm, and he doesn't want to risk dying since these Z Fighters are a lot more powerful, so Jiro is a lot more cautious and isn't going to be taking that risk. This means Jiro still frees 17 and 18 like in canon, and 17 and 18 would then take on the Z Fighters, with 18 facing off against Vegeta, with that fight ending up the same. While Bardock would then challenge 17 and insists on taking him on alone, and if he does fall, then Nail can take up a spot. And at that point, the two Saiyans then combat the two androids, with both Saiyans initially doing well. However, due to the Super Saiyan drain and the androids showing off more of their power, they would be overwhelmed. Trunks tries to avenge Vegeta while Nail avenges Bardock. However, Trunks would just fall like in canon, whereas with Nail would actually be able to overpower 17 initially. However, 16 would then come in to save him, who's stronger than 17. And yeah, I know some of you are going to be like, well, Nail is stronger than 17 too. Well, now he's getting 2v1, so he's going to be losing this fight regardless. And the Z Fighters fall, and Krillin still gets kissed on the cheek by 18. Now, after this, I think the Piccolo side of Nail would then get the idea to maybe fuse with Kami, or maybe Kami just comes up with this idea in the end, because I think regardless, this is going to have to happen to try and have some way to solve the androids, because they have no other way to really do so. Vegeta and the others are just not strong enough simply, and the fusion would be a greater result in this timeline due to Nail being stronger. After fusing, he would still go on to interrogate Cell, however Cell would just use Solar Flare and escape, and he would absorb multiple cities, probably more cities in this timeline, seeing Nail's strength, allowing him to actually overpower Nail, or he could just use a Solar Flare and just go on to absorb 17. Regardless, he is going to be emerging into a semi-perfect state, which would allow him to surpass Nail and everyone else on the island at that point. Now, before I continue, I want to talk about something briefly that I didn't mention beforehand. The hyperbolic time chamber is still going to be mentioned, obviously, and set up like in canon. However, this time it will be Bardock and Vegeta going into the chamber. This is because Bardock and Vegeta suffered against the androids the most, and both of them are desperate to try and get revenge. Bardock and Vegeta would be training intensely, with both of them actually being able to train with each other and tolerate with each other just for the time being, because they both have a common enemy. And it's not like Vegeta could just be like, oh, fuck off Bardock, like how he did with Trunks because he was so much stronger than him. This time, Bardock is the stronger one. And so if Bardock is trying to say to Vegeta that they have no other choice but to work together, Vegeta would cooperate reluctantly. However, that doesn't mean they are going to be just training together the whole time. The majority of the time it is solo, however from time to time they would spar with each other. Vegeta would go on to obtain grade 2, however Bardock would go for something else. Bardock needs a better form of Super Saiyan. He realized in his fight with the androids that the Super Saiyan form just drains too much energy, and he needs to remove that factor, and overall bring the transformation to its limit. Bardock would see Vegeta firstly discover grade 2, but Bardock notes the energy drain is worse than grade 1, and so Bardock would eventually seek out the other stages, even discovering grade 3, but the hardest training of all was trying to maintain Super Saiyan. Vegeta, seeing Bardock trying to focus on this, thought it was stupid initially and a waste of time, as power is the easiest step to the top. Now Vegeta and Bardock would emerge from the time chamber around when Goku saves Tien and Nail, and Vegeta would be stronger than his canon self due to him actually training with Bardock from time to time, and Bardock initially looks to be just kind of relatively above Vegeta, but what everyone else doesn't know is that Bardock has a trump card. Vegeta would go on to fly out to stop Cell, whereas with Bardock he would just teleport to him via instant transmission, and the only reason Vegeta doesn't go with him is because he just simply doesn't want to teleport with Bardock. Meaning Bardock gets to Cell first, and he would power up into grade 2 initially in beating up Cell, and when Cell powers up into his full power, Bardock believes he should do the same, and Cell would be shocked. He can't believe this isn't even Bardock's full power, and Bardock says no, this isn't even close to it. Allow me to show you. Vegeta would have already arrived at this point and is just spectating the fight, telling Bardock that he'll take on Cell if he struggles, and Bardock says that he doesn't even think that's going to be necessary, as he then powers up, shaking the islands that were surrounding them. Vegeta and Cell, sensing this power, would be frustrated, with Vegeta wondering how did he get so powerful in the time chamber without him realizing, and this would then lead into Bardock just easily weaving all of Cell's attacks, and Vegeta not being able to do anything to really, let Cell attain his perfect form, and not to mention I don't think he would even do this anyway considering he doesn't even fight him first. And so Bardock easily beats down Cell and defeats him with a technique he actually learned during the 3-year time skip, the Kamehameha wave. And so he fires it at Cell in the sky, completely disintegrating the android into ash, and defeating him before he can even attain his perfect form. He made sure he turned Cell into ash in the air just so he doesn't damage any of the surrounding islands. 18 lives thanks to Krillin, and 17 is revived afterwards just like in canon, and as for Trunks, he would go into the time chamber alone or with someone like Nail since he needs some gains. And Trunks still achieves grade 2 and grade 3, which allows him to defeat his androids and save his timeline. Vegeta wouldn't quit fighting while Gohan wouldn't go Super Saiyan 2, but he would have mastered grade 4. Bardock realizes not only does Earth have Dragon Balls, but can also revive people with it. You see, Bardock was mainly on Namek, then Yardrat, then Earth, where he had to train for 3 years straight. He barely got settled down and didn't really think of what he could do after he met Kakarot. This would then lead into him thinking about reviving Gine, which he then tells the Z-Fighters about. The Z-Fighters aren't really against this idea, with Nail full on supporting Bardock, telling him that he deserves happiness. This is just a nice little moment to show how far these two homies have come. And so I'm going to say here, instead of Dende becoming Guardian, Nail decides to actually pick up the mantle himself, since this was kind of his arc that was building up for him. He was the main defender of Namek and did whatever it takes, and now has a life of his own and is willing to commit to this planet just how he did for Namek. And so probably a few days pass with Nail trying to get this Guardian stuff down, and he's even able to amp the Dragon Balls thanks to his power. So now the balls are basically going to be used just like how Dende was able to allow them to, but probably an extra wish on top of this since Nail is a lot stronger than any of the other Guardians that we've had. And so the Dragon Balls are used to revive Gine, and she's teleported to the lookout, and she would then see her husband and her grown-up boy standing before her. Bardock and Gine run up to each other, happy to see each other once again, and it's nice considering back in part 1, Gine promised they would see each other once again. Kakarot, seeing his mother, has no words but has a feeling to hug her, and so the three would talk about what they've gone through and settle down by the Sun family. Gine and Bardock would live together right next to Goku and Chi-Chi, and the three would have bonded and slowly became a family once again. Gine even got to interact with his wife, who she very much likes, and even his grandkids such as Gohan and eventually even Goten. Now over the 7 years, Goku and Bardock would mainly train along with Goten. Even Nail from time to time, whenever he's not being the Guardian of Earth, would train with the Z-Fighters, specifically Bardock, Goku, and Goten. Now as for Gohan, Gohan never goes Super Saiyan 2 or is even put in a position where he has to balance, let alone fight. So he just isn't that strong in comparison, but he isn't the weakest guy on the team, and he still goes to school and all that Videl stuff happens. Now, I did mention Goten earlier, who would have come out a lot more powerful than his canonical self, even surpassing Trunks by the end of the time skip thanks to the likes of Bardock and Goku going crazy during training. Speaking of those two, they would have more than likely ascended past Super Saiyan Mastered and go into Super Saiyan 2, and eventually managed to control that power. As for Vegeta, well, he and Goku more than likely would have fought during the time skip and settled their score, leading into Vegeta admitting Goku is stronger, but would not slack and would manage to achieve Super Saiyan 2 himself. And although he's weaker than Goku and Bardock by this point, he would be at least in the same class as them, which would satisfy him more than enough. He and Trunks are in a good spot, as well as his relationship with Bulma. Trunks would be a lot stronger than his canonical self as well, due to Vegeta being down to train him, but Goten is just stronger than this version of Trunks anyway, thanks to Goku and Bardock training. Now, we would move on to the World Tournament Saga, which the setup is the exact same except obviously no dead Goku, and we see Goten win the Junior Division, Nail being intimidated by Shin thanks to his Piccolo and Kami side, but not backing down due to 1, not only being way more powerful than this version of Piccolo, so he's not going to be weaker than Shin in this timeline, and 2, for the sake of his Piccolo and Kami side, he does want to impress the Kais. And Shin decides to show off as well to see what this Namekian is capable of, with Nail and Shin initially going evenly at it. However, when Shin reveals that that was his full power, Nail would reveal his full power. Nail at this point should be stronger than the Gohan that was flexing off his Super Saiyan 2 against Kibito, which did catch Spopovich and Yamu's attention, so in this timeline they are going to be doing the same thing only to Nail, and they are going to be draining his energy while Shin restrains him. And after he heals Nail and explains to them what's their real goal, they would then go to Babidi's hideout and try and stop him. Deborah still kills Kibito, but this time spits on only Krillin due to Nail being fast enough to dodge the spit and then getting a kickoff on Deborah. Deborah manages to survive this attack, albeit with high difficulty, and this was just a casual Nail, and Deborah would then head into the hideout with the Z Fighters pursuing after him. Now, I really don't see Gohan being needed here, but rather we would have Goku, Vegeta, Nail, and Bardock and Shin ready to try and take on Babidi and his goons, but we have more than 3 people, so we're going to have to try and decide. Goku and Bardock would rock, paper, scissors for the last spot, leading into Bardock actually winning, and Goku's going to sit this one out. And so the team is settled. Bardock, Vegeta, and Nail would then be the ones to go and stop Babidi and his goons, leading into Vegeta bodying Pui Pui, Yakon being overwhelmed by the likes of Bardock, and Nail would fight the likes of Deborah, who would be mainly using his hacks to stall throughout most of the fight. However, Nail would be even stronger than the likes of adult Gohan, whose power can even get through these hacks and make them kind of relative with each other, and so Nail is just going to be overwhelming Deborah and taking him out. And with this Vegeta already getting his character arc, meaning no Majin Vegeta is going to be happening, Deborah can't even try and attempt to escape, but rather just tries to win the fight. However, it just doesn't work in his favor, and Nail would finish him off with a Masenko. After this, Bardock probably destroys the Babidi hideout, and if Babidi tries to escape, Shin would probably just put him down and Bardock can go and kill him. Regardless, the Buu arc just ends before he even comes out of the egg, and after this, the egg is taken to the Supreme Kai world, and Shin, as a way to show appreciation for what they've done, asks if they would like to train on the world of the Kais. The Saiyans wouldn't be too interested in this, considering Shin was just so much weaker, so really what's the point in training in some, divine field? Nail, however, would go to train since Piccolo and Kami think this to be a great honor, and Nail himself is down to get a lot more powerful, especially if it means Earth is being protected and this being a way to catch up with the Saiyans. And it'd be kind of fitting for a god to actually get some training from another god. And so Nail would train in the realm of the Kais and would pull out the Z-Sword relatively quickly and release the Elder Kai. Probably like a couple days or weeks of training at best. And just like Gohan, Nail would achieve the ultimate state, surpassing the others by this point. And so for the next 6 months, everyone would be training casually and chilling on Earth. And that is when Beerus wakes up one day and questions about a Super Saiyan god. He would go to Earth this time to find both Goku and Bardock, who both defeated Frieza, and they would have no idea of this Super Saiyan god. And they would be on Bulma's boat, by the way, since they are celebrating her birthday still. Also, Bardock is a lot more cautious when talking to Beerus because he knows who Beerus is. Goku would want to fight him, which Bardock tries to stop, but Beerus insists and even tells Bardock to step in as well. Bardock wouldn't step in initially, however, when Goku gets body slammed in his Super Saiyan 2 state, his father instincts kick in, allowing him to go into Super Saiyan 2 and try and 2v1 Beerus. However, Beerus just deals with him with relative ease, leading into him then taking on the other Saiyans, and then eventually all the Z Fighters on the boat. Now, the only person who actually tags him and impresses Beerus just a little bit is Ultimate Nail, who manages to surprise Beerus by suppressing himself and powering up at the last second, allowing him to actually tag Beerus. However, even then, this results in Nail just getting slammed into the water in seconds. However, Beerus will commend and respect Nail for actually being the only Z Fighter to tag him. Bulma and Guinea would be the ones to try and talk to Beerus, saying that he's just ruining their whole party, and they would both give him a smack. However, this allows Vegeta and Bardock to get Ray Jammed, allowing them to do a final Kamehameha, which in hindsight does nothing to the God of Destruction, who would flick Vegeta away and grab Bardock by his tail, questioning why does he have such a useless accessory still, as he would then drop him into the water. Now, Videl could still reveal she's pregnant, but they don't need Pan in this case due to the extra Saiyans. We have Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Bardock, Goten, Trunks, and Guinea, so Pan isn't required, but she could still reveal she's pregnant. Goku goes God and combats Beerus just like in canon, and Beerus would spare Earth, allowing Goku and Vegeta to then, months later, go on to train with Beerus, while Bardock and mainly Nail would be trying to figure out what would be the next step. Reason why is because they believe Goku and Vegeta can't get too ahead of them, and Beerus is a threat that they have to be ready for eventually, because he might just say screw it and destroy the planet. That's when Bardock remembers about what Beerus said to him earlier about his useless accessory, and maybe adding in the Ozaru on top of his Super Saiyan form could work out, but the form is just really distracting. Oh well, they'll figure it out in the meantime, and this leads into Bardock trying to basically stack the Ozaru on top of his other forms, due to this being the next step of power he can really achieve on his own. He doesn't want help from the gods, he doesn't want an easy ticket to power with the ultimate boost, he wants to achieve his path to power on his own. And so, this would lead into him and Nail deciding to go to the time chamber for 5 years. You guys already know where I'm going with this, I mean, you saw the thumbnail. This would lead into Bardock trying to stack Super Saiyan on top of Great Ape, which Nail just sensing would be impressed. However, Bardock isn't able to control this just yet, but over the course of his training with Nail during the time chamber, he would be able to control it via like Nail and him doing some mental training to prepare Bardock and allow him to gain control. And then one day, while sparring with Nail using this form and being able to wield it, Bardock feels like he can go even further beyond, and so he does, with Bardock powering up and then blinding Nail in a red flashing light. When the light dwindles away, Bardock emerges into his Super Saiyan 4 state, and I know this form isn't canon! Oh. Leave me alone, man. This is not only the one what if where I can have the actual SSJ4 transformation in with it making a little bit of sense, since at least Bardock has a tail and has 3 years to try and achieve strength in his own way, try and get this form. And not to mention, the Mystic form was something I already had for my future Vegeta what if, and I'm not going to incorporate that for Bardock. And while the God forms are clean, there are a lot of what ifs with Bardock alive that do this. So not only did I want to do something a little different, I just feel like the other forms are just kind of lame in comparison, and not to mention, it is definitely possible since Bardock has the requirements for this form. If you want to be like, oh, I'm not watching because it's not canon, well, go eat a fucking jar of mayonnaise and shut up, bitch. I don't give a shit. Oh my god. God, I hate when people complain about that shit. Let me do what I want! Alright, so Bardock and Nail would emerge from the time chamber being way more powerful than before they went in, and like in canon, Goku and Vegeta would be training on Beerus' planet, and let's say while they were in the time chamber, King Cold and his forces would arrive on Earth, getting the Dragon Balls and reviving Frieza like in canon, and having 4 months to train. But only this time, Frieza has a training partner. 4 months later, Frieza and King Cold's forces would then arrive on Earth with Bardock leading the Z-Fighters, with Bardock telling Frieza he's going to send him back to Hell once again, and King Cold can join him this time, as he then powers up, with Bardock trying to take on Frieza and King Cold and Nail fighting, while the others are taking on the Frieza goons. Tagoma and Shisami aren't going to be nearly as powerful as they once were in canon due to King Cold and Frieza mainly training with each other, and so Krillin and Master Roshi and Tien would mainly use their hacks to get the jump on them, such as the Tri-Beam, Solar Flare, Mafuba, Destructo Disc, etc. All those techniques would be more than enough to overwhelm them. And as this is going down, Nail and King Cold are scrapping with each other, with King Cold being pushed to the edge and Bardock pushing Frieza. This forces both father and son to transform, with Frieza going into his golden form, and King Cold going through a different type of transformation. It is the equivalent of a golden form, but it's not golden exactly. You see, instead of coloring Cold doo-doo butter and saying that's his golden form, I've decided to actually take an idea my buddy Lytro suggested me, and basically just have Cold's final form be Cooler's but slightly pink, since, you know, Cold kind of looks like Cooler in terms of color anyway, so you just gotta make it a little lighter, and that's what I'm doing. With this transformation, Bardock's Super Saiyan 2 and even his Golden Great Ape form isn't enough, and so he would break his limits just like how he did with Nail in the Time Chamber and emerge into the Super Saiyan 4 state. And as for Nail, Nail doesn't really have anything except for just tapping more into his power, which isn't going to be enough to defeat King Cold, especially since he can't even stall against Cold just like how Bardock could against Frieza, because this form, unlike Golden, is mastered. This form doesn't have a stamina problem either, so King Cold is just going to be kind of bodying Nail, whereas with Bardock, he's going to be stalling against Golden Frieza. His Super Saiyan 4 form is nowhere near Golden Frieza's power, However, he is able to stall long enough for Goku and Vegeta to arrive, where this would then lead into Goku facing off against Frieza with Bardock, whereas Vegeta faces off against Cold, with Nail just kind of, half dead on the side. Remember, Golden Frieza is above Goku and Vegeta in terms of power, it's just the stamina problem that he was having. However, King Cold wouldn't have this problem, meaning he would be dominating in his fight against Vegeta, whereas with Goku he would inevitably take down Frieza, thanks to the previous fight that Frieza had with Bardock that consumed a lot of his energy. Now as for King Cold, he would be dominating in his fight against Vegeta, with Vegeta getting overwhelmed and leading into Goku and Vegeta and Bardock deciding to work together. And so Vegeta and Goku prepare their full power by charging up their special techniques, with Bardock being the main one distracting King Cold. This is an homage to back in the Frieza arc, where Bardock was stalling for Goku originally to try and get the Spirit Bomb off, but this time obviously under different circumstances. Bardock would be fighting to the end, so much as to even reverting back into base form and still continuing to fight, which would force even Nail to jump in and stall along with Bardock. As King Cold is about to finish them both off, Master Roshi would use a Mafuba, which obviously doesn't work due to the power gap. However, it wasn't to actually overpower King Cold, it was to keep him off balance, allowing them to get Nail and Bardock out of there, and Goku and Vegeta just got done charging up. Both of them would launch their full power, with Vegeta launching a final flash and Goku launching a Kamehameha simultaneously. They would push back King Cold, however he would have recovered from the solar flare by that time and would have been outputting power, allowing them to basically just clash with each other. However, seeing King Cold resisting, Bardock uses the last remains of his energy to then shoot a Riot Javelin at his back, which does distract King Cold, allowing Goku and Vegeta to push further and atomize the Emperor's father. Cold is dead and the universe once again is saved by the Saiyans. Now shortly after this, the Universe 6 arc is still set up the same as in canon, with this time Bardock replacing Boo and Nail replacing Piccolo, which are good trade-offs because Nail and Bardock are a lot stronger than the guys they are replacing by this point. Goku and Vegeta use the time chamber, and the tourney begins with Goku still going up first. He beats up Otamo but still loses to Frost due to the poison, and following up would be our Namekian warrior, who doesn't get poisoned and doesn't rely on a special technique to beat Frost. Remember, this Namekian is far stronger than the one who fought Frost canonically, and so Nail casually would show off levels that even Final Form Frost couldn't even keep up with, and then falls, but not without Nail catching Frost trying to specifically attack with this one hand, and then exposing Frost in front of the crowd for being a rat. So he not only beats up Frost, he also humiliates him. After this, Vegeta steps in, which would prove to be much more difficult for Nail in comparison to Frost, but Nail would just go into his full powered state and would also discover Vegeta's weakness simultaneously, so not only does he overwhelm him in terms of power, he also uses Vegeta's weakness when he figures it out to his advantage. That way he can save up some stamina for the next fight, and so Vegeta would then be eliminated. Kaba would then step in next, and base to base Nail and Kaba are actually going at it, with Nail then using his ultimate form to overwhelm Kaba. Before Kaba gets eliminated, he would ask Nail if he has any idea on how to transform into the Super Saiyan transformation, or whatever that golden haired form is, and this would shock the Universe 7 Saiyans because they thought he could go Super Saiyan. And Nail, probably knowing how Super Saiyan works, considering he helped not only Gohan achieve it, but also his Bardock's training partner who has Super Saiyan, I think Nail would at least know how to trigger this form, and he would get Kaba pissed off just like how Vegeta did, and Kaba goes grade 1. However, just like what Vegeta did to Kaba, Nail would body slam Kaba immediately after, telling him to try and obtain this power the next time they meet. Next fight would then be Hit versus Nail, which rip Nail. He is literally going to be the Vegeta part of this saga. And what I mean by that is Hit is basically going to fold him like a pancake. Bardock would then jump into the ring, and using Super Saiyan 4 and also observing how Hit was fighting against Nail, he would do a little bit better than what Vegeta was able to do against Hit. However, he wouldn't do as good as Blue Goku, and in the end is eliminated. After this, Vegeta steps into the ring, and he actually does just as good as Goku did against Hit initially before using the Kaioken, and like in canon, Hit would adapt, and because Vegeta doesn't have any multipliers to really stack on, he can't really compete with this amped up Hit, and he would be overwhelmed. This would then lead into Goku then stepping up, using the Kaioken, and basically the rest of the arc playing out the same. Universe 6's Earth is brought back thanks to Beerus' wish, and the Universe 6 arc would then conclude. When Bardock and Nail come back to Earth, they would be training immediately, showing the fact that they are just mad that the Saiyans were the ones who essentially carried them yet again. They couldn't beat Frieza or Cold by themselves, nor could they beat Hit. And so they would make it their mission to at least find a way to be comparable to the Super Saiyan Blues and not let them carry everything. These two need to catch up and at least be on the Super Saiyan Blue tiers of power, and so for the next couple of months they would be training with each other, and then eventually Future Trunks arriving and warning them about Goku Black, which Bardock, sensing Future Trunks' energy, would use instant transmission to teleport he and Nail to get the context of the situation. Goku Black still warps his way into their timeline, with Goku and Goku Black fighting, Goku Black then warping back into the future timeline, Goku going on to investigate what's going on with Zamasu, along with Beerus, Whis, and Bardock this time, while Trunks and Vegeta would be training on Earth. And when they go to the future, Bardock tags along, saying that he's not going to let this guy running around as his son get away with this. The four would head off into the future timeline, facing off against Rose Black and future Zamasu, who still does appear. The four get bodied, with Trunks and Goku 2v1ing Zamasu, but can't put him down to the regeneration, while Goku Black drops Bardock and Vegeta on their skull, and Black still tells Goku that he murdered his whole family, Guinea included, which would enrage Bardock to then go into a state where he appears to have no Super Saiyan 4 aura, and he's just a lot more powerful than ever. This is the full-powered Super Saiyan 4 state, however, Bardock is just only briefly going into the state due to rage, and it's still not enough to defeat Black. Goku Black would outscale and kick Bardock down, telling him if he had actual control over that state, he might have done some serious damage to Black. No matter though, as Goku Black gets ready to finish him off, however, future Trunks and Goku would grab Bardock, as Vegeta would then blast Black, trying to stall for some time, allowing them to get into the ship, and then Vegeta then rushing in as well, allowing them to barely escape. After they arrive back, Bardock would just be bloodlusted as to what had happened and would fly to the time chamber immediately, with Vegeta right behind him, saying to Bardock that they both have a bone to pick with him. Bardock nods, as when they arrive, he would open the door for Vegeta, and the two of them would train together in the time chamber. Bardock and both Vegeta have problems with their stamina, and unlike last time, these two are willing to work together due to how far they've individually come as human beings, and when they emerge, Vegeta would be a lot more powerful than his canonical self, but would also have a neat trick he picked up in the time chamber thanks to Bardock, which was the God technique. You know, switching from God to then blue at the last second, minimizing stamina reduction, and maximizing power. Pretty cool technique. And Bardock also learned this with Super Saiyan 4, so he can do this as well. However, he is mainly trying to obtain full-powered Super Saiyan 4, but he just can't simply attain it just yet. However, he was able to master Super Saiyan 4, which he thinks is the next best step to trying to obtain this form yet again. Trunks and Goku both learn Mafuba in the meantime, with Trunks remembering the pot. So when they go back, Goku and Trunks would seal Zamasu with no difficulty, while Bardock and Vegeta would take turns comboing this man Goku Black. Goku would then say that they need to do this together, with Vegeta and Bardock both nodding, as Bardock throws a full-on Tyrant Lancer as Vegeta uses a final flash. Black fires his own Kamehameha wave, which is able to clash with this combined blast. However, it definitely is a struggle. Bardock, feeling like he's about to fall, remembers what Black did to his family, and Bardock in that timeline as well. He won't die to this monster again, and he won't let him kill his family again. Trunks and Goku trying coming in as well to distract Black, allowing Vegeta to hold his own while Bardock stops putting in power and concentrate. We see his yellow aura disappearing, indicating that he's in his full-powered Super Saiyan 4 state yet again, as he then puts all of his power into a Kamehameha wave. However, we see this attack being red, and Bardock taking a good 10 seconds to charge it, with the power of the beam multiplying by the second. Bardock then screams out times 10 Kamehameha as the beam then combines with Vegeta's final flash, making the attack far more powerful than Black would have anticipated, and Black's attack would then be consumed by the combined blast, and he as well would be consumed. Black is vaporized, and no fuse Zamasu equals no future being erased, meaning a good ending for the future Trunks arc. And I think just like in the ending of the future Trunks arc, Gohan would have been shown training in the background after ROF like in canon, showing that Gohan is on his grind. I think he would have approached Nail during the Black arc, which gives Nail the idea to train him in the world of the Kais. Gohan wasn't strong enough, and because of that, he wants to have a balance for the sake of bettering the safety of his wife and kid. After Trunks and Mai go back, Bardock would be told to sit down with Guinea, which scares him initially because he thought he was in trouble, but Guinea then reveals that it's actually good news. She would then reveal that she's pregnant. Bardock would be speechless, genuinely not knowing what to say, but we see how Bardock is having clearly happy thoughts as he then goes to hug his wife. They revealed the news to the rest of the Sun family, and that's how the Black arc concludes. Time would pass and the Tournament of Power is still set up just like in canon, with Bardock replacing Buu this time and slamming Basil, and Gohan and Goku's matches would be similar to in canon. And so for the Recruitment Saga, things are very similar to in canon. It's just that Nail is going to be helping out Gohan during this time, like how Piccolo did with Gohan right before the tournament started. And things would balance out here because Gohan would be weaker than his canonical self, probably not being on the Super Saiyan Blue tier, but would be above the Super Saiyan God still. However, Nail is a lot more powerful than the canon version of Piccolo, and essentially being the ultimate Gohan equivalent of this duo. What I mean is overall, our Namekian half Saiyan duo for Universe 7 is a lot more powerful than our canon duo. And as for Frieza, well, Frieza isn't going to be revived here because Bardock is actually going to be filling up the last spot. And if you guys are going to be like, oh, what about Android 16? What about Android 16? He's an android, meaning he can't really get stronger throughout training. Remember, he's full android, like no human parts at all, meaning he's just programmed to be at that specific level of power. So at best, he's like imperfect cell tier, which means even the humans are surpassing this man. 16 is just going to look over 17's island, which basically allows Goku to get 17 to join the team a lot easier. And instead of Frieza being recruited, it would be Goku and Bardock deciding to have a spar before they actually go off into the world of Void, with Bardock and Goku going through the transformations and eventually Bardock reaching Super Saiyan 4 and Goku would reach Super Saiyan God. Bardock would show that he's actually stronger than God Goku, which would force him into blue. However, Bardock would then be forced into using full power Super Saiyan 4, which he reveals he's actually been getting used to over the course of training after the Goku Black Arc. Bardock at his full power is able to trade blows with Blue Goku, with both of them then deciding to get into a beam clash. However, lucky for Bardock, he manages to get the times 10 Kamehameha off, forcing Goku to then use his own times 10 Kamehameha, the Kaioken times 10 Kamehameha. At this point, both of them would just be evenly matched with both beams just going back and forth. However, at that point, Goku would stop putting power into the beam and would push back last second to jump up into the air, saying times 20. Bardock puts in all the ki he's got into this blast, which would almost tag Goku. However, lucky for Goku, he barely just missed the blast, and in his times 20 state would blitz towards wherever Bardock is, and would land a solid blow to the face. Bardock is slumped, but Bardock is proud he was able to push his son to such limits, and so he is satisfied. And so Universe 7 would then get ready to leave off to the world of Void. However, Guinea would say some last words to Bardock while holding a baby girl. Guinea would then say to Bardock to be home by dinner, as he and Supina, their baby girl, are going to be eating their favorite food tonight. Bardock would then smile, giving her and Supina a last hug before then heading off into the world of Void. Also, if you didn't catch on yet, yeah, Guinea and Bardock had a baby girl, and her name is Supina. And now it's Tournament of Power time. We start off with the tournament initially starting similar to in canon, with Goku being jumped by Universe 9, but this time Bardock actually intervenes and the father-son duo take out everyone in Universe 9 just like how Goku and Vegeta were able to in canon. And technically here, when the trio de Dangers fires off their combined attack, this would be the first ever father-son Kamehameha being fired off, which would eliminate Universe 9. Now, due to no Frost and Frieza teaming up, Frost never tries to sneak attack Krillin, but rather attempts to fight Nail to try and get revenge, with Botamo and Magetta helping him. However, what's bad for them is the fact that Nail is so much more powerful, and he has Gohan backing him up. Also, due to Nail being stronger, the circle that Universe 7 forms initially is probably still intact. Meaning, not only Gohan and Nail are fighting, but also Roshi, Tien, etc. Not Krillin though, due to him seeing his wife having trouble with that blind wolf guy, where he throws his stinky ass shoes to win the match, and the rest of the circle would then take on Frost, Botamo, and Magetta, with Nail and Gohan basically carrying the team to victory, with Magetta and Botamo being eliminated by Gohan, while Nail eliminates Frost, just like how he did in the Universe 6 tournament. This means Roshi stays in, and if the sniper comes in to fight Universe 7's circle, well, I think Nail can just simply run through the blast and fold the sniper. He's far more powerful than Piccolo, so he's not going to get tagged and, get his arms chopped off by these beams. And Plum is eliminated by Roshi, Gohan, and Tien. Universe 10's warriors even try to face them as well, but Nail and Gohan take out their two strongest, while the others Wombo Combo and Universe 10 is the second universe to get eliminated still. Bardock currently would be with Goku, and the two would 2v2 the female Saiyans, with Goku fighting Caulifla and killing Bardock going at it. Bardock in his base form easily just takes her down, and she starts to power up, but him seeing this as an immediate threat decides to take action. Bardock transforms into a Super Saiyan 4 state and powers up a Kamehameha that would overpower Berserker Kale and launch her off the stage before she could even do anything. As for Caulifla, she would decide to retreat after seeing her friend fall, and she and Kaba would probably meet up, waiting for the right time to attack. Caulifla shows Kaba what she managed to get thanks to the Supreme Kai, which is the Potara earrings. Now I think here Goku and Bardock would fight the fodder troopers replacing Kale and Caulifla, and they would eliminate that group and also go on to help Hit fight Dispo like in canon. With the Dispo, Jiren, and Topo being the remaining three left, and deciding to just relax for the time being, as, they only have 3 members left. I guess for the other Z Fighters, the only other threat I can really see for them are the Universe 6 Namekians, and so Nail and Gohan would then 2v2 those guys, leading into the rest of the circle, going on to help 17 and 18 and Krillin take on the Universe 2 fighters. They would manage to eliminate Kakunsa, Rosie, and Jamise, though 17 is the one who has to put him down. After this point, Goku vs Jiren arrives, with Ribrianne trying to get in the way, but Bardock decides to fight her in the meantime. Bardock, enraged at Ribrianne, would charge headfirst into Super Saiyan and full-on body slam Ribrianne, so much so as to punching her up in the air, jumping up, spinning her around, and just before he starts to fall, he throws her flying across the stage and out of the arena. Goku and Jiren go at it, with Goku unlocking Omen and then Hit trying to fight Jiren, but he falls as well. Bardock this time around is the one to give Goku his energy, and Kaba would still go Super Saiyan 2 and stay around this time due to Frieza not being here to eliminate him, and long enough for both he and Caulifla to try and jump Goku. However, Bardock at that point instant transmissions to the scene, and he tells his son he's not letting him 1v2 them no matter what he says, and Goku smirks saying, well, alright, as he then gets in a fighting stance with his father. Bardock would then give Goku even more energy that way so he can go into Super Saiyan 2, allowing him to just body Caulifla initially. And as for Bardock, he would just be slapping around Kaba in a Super Saiyan 4 state, and Kaba would be trying his best to hold his ground. Goku overall is having a much easier time fighting Caulifla, as it's not a 1v2 anymore, and Caulifla and Kaba would both just be getting bodied, with Caulifla then trying to throw the earring to Kaba. But Bardock, being literally right next to Kaba and seeing this, would grab the earring and eliminate Kaba. Bardock questions what the earring is, as he would then quickly instant transmission over to her and swipe the other one from her. The Grand Priest would look closely and would announce that those are Potara earrings. Even though those are against the rules though, Zeno actually thought this would be a cool concept, and if Universe 7 would like to use those earrings, they wouldn't mind. And so just because of that, Bardock is going to hold on to these earrings, just in case if he needs them. As for the other universes, Universe 6 eventually loses due to the Namekians being overwhelmed by Nail and Gohan, while Universe 2 is dealt with by 17 and 18. However, in the final battle between the remaining 3 warriors of Universe 2, when they transform, they proceed to body Tien and Roshi. Goku and Bardock would help out after, and like in canon, Goku would help them defeat him. Universe 4's remaining fighters would have off-guarded Krillin and eliminated him, but Universe 7 figures out that it's just a bug, and they are erased like in canon. And as for Universe 3, that's literally the same thing, just with Bardock replacing Frieza, and 18 still gets eliminated. And now it's Universe 7 versus Universe 11. With Universe 7's team being the same, obviously with Bardock replacing Frieza, and having an extra member, that being Nail, and Universe 11 having its canonical 3 members. Now this time, 17 and Gohan go after Dispo, with 17 using his barriers to basically set up a trap for Dispo, eliminating him but also losing Gohan in the process. As for Toppo, well, no Frieza would come to force him to use his God mode, meaning Bardock and him for the most part would just be scrapping, with Nail assisting Bardock, and Bardock then using his ×10 Kamehameha to clash with Toppo's blast. This would fold Toppo and eliminate him before he can even think to use this God mode. After this point, Goku and Vegeta would have been fighting Jiren and Vegeta using Blue Evolution, but Goku would have been extremely weaker due to Goku not going Omen a second time. And so here, when Vegeta goes Blue Evolution, Goku goes Omen a second time and begins to press Jiren. Goku's form would run out though eventually, and the other Z Fighters would have to come in to assist, but Jiren slowly begins to eliminate them as well. Goku gets back up and doesn't back down even though he's in his base form, but Goku just gets smacked away, but still is on the arena, and the other Z Fighters would try to jump Jiren, but like I said, Jiren would just easily eliminate these guys, with him blasting Nail quickly off the stage, knocking Bardock into his base form, and slumping both Vegeta and 17. Jiren would then fire off a blast that would seemingly finish them off, but 17 would still sacrifice himself, giving the Z Fighters borrowed time. Bardock then explains to Vegeta about the earrings and how they basically fuse into a person to become stronger, and they'll allow it. Vegeta is hesitant, but Bardock reminds him both of them don't want to do this, but Bardock is willing to do this if it means to protect his newborn and his wife, which Vegeta can definitely relate to because he's doing the same thing. And so Vegeta says fine in the end, and the two of them then put on the earrings. After they both merge into one being and emerge in a flashing light, Vegedock is born, and he transforms into a fused state of Super Saiyan 4 with God Ki. This opponent is not only worthy of rivaling Jiren, but also is easily capable of surpassing him. He would show off his power, slowly beating Jiren down, and even forcing Jiren to use more and more of his full power. However, even that isn't enough. Jiren would fire a full-powered blast, as Vegedock would then fire a ×100 Big Bang Kamehameha, which would easily overpower Jiren's blast and overwhelm him as well, holding back just enough power to not kill Jiren, but it's definitely enough to not only knock him out, but also eliminate him off the stage. However, the fusion did put everything into that attack, and so the two would defuse as well, remaining on the stage. Goku, Vegeta, and Bardock win along with 17 since he survives the encounter still. Universe 7 wins and the remaining universes are brought back to life, with no Broly happening due to no Frieza being around. And as for the moral arc, well, I think the most that Bardock could do is help Vegeta train on Yardrat, with those two both getting new techniques, and maybe Bardock getting like cloning or something. But in the end, it's not enough to beat Moro, and that arc mostly wraps up the same. And as for the Granola arc, well, if Granola is currently bodying Goku and Vegeta right now, I don't think Bardock is really going to change any of that. And so this is where I'm going to be leaving this what if off, guys. If you did enjoy this series, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel or are just a Dragon Ball fan and want to see more Dragon Ball videos in the future. Be sure to hit the bell icon, that way you are notified and updated when I upload. And be sure to go and support the full series video that comes out after this one, or like a week after this video, technically. Thank you guys so much for this series. It's been so much fun, or the support for the series, my bad. Thank you for the series, my god. Thank you so much, guys. Once again, I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.